Welcome, everyone, to 2019. Also, welcome to my podcast, episode 221 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pendoresco. I write stuff and podcast too. My guest is a science fiction legend and icon in Spider Robinson. I could list his resume, but man, if writer, journalist, musician, he still is a rock star. He really, really is. I want to tell a quick story here. I was supposed to, at VCon, interview a really well-known author. He kind of blew me off. And as I was going to my Aurora pinning, Spider walks by. And it's the first time I met him. And they got him to come in and get his new Aurora pin, because he's Spider freaking Robinson. Of course he's got an Aurora pin. And so he performs, and I go watch his performance, and then the next day he's asking for directions. And I'm like, you know what, I might as well just throw it out there, because why not? I mean, so I introduced myself. I go, would you like to come on my show? He said, not only say yes, we had, this is probably the best interview I've ever done, because it's funny, it's touching. Spider is still an incredibly sweet man. He really, really is. And, you know, I personally can't wait to when he releases his next book. There really isn't much more to say other than two things. My part of the conversation echoes sometimes. I can't completely fix it. It's a reverberation thing can't fix. So I'm going to apologize for that in advance. That all said, this is still an incredible conversation. And there's also going to be a few surprises along the way. All right. I just figure I'd be polite about it, because if we're going to say the really good incriminating stuff, I wanted just to put it on the recorder.
You're now responsible.
No. It's just I always open my podcast. Generally, if you got anything incriminating to say, make it good, because it might as well make it entertaining, right? But Of course, the 16-year-old pop star had the best answer I've ever heard of. But no, we live in a really, really weird age in this sense. It's like, if you like
Boy,
this,
do we live in a weird age. I don't understand it.
Oh, I don't either. And I'm far younger than you, and I don't get it. I just... The only thing about today is, see, I'm young enough where I still have to adapt to it and roll with it and evolve in it, because I'm still living in the world. I get the feeling in your case you've gotten to the point where the world's kind of like, you're like, the world's nice, but I'm happy where I am.
The world has receded from me, and that suits me just fine. I'm currently reading a book by a guy named Jonathan Rauch, R-A-U-C-H. It's called A Happiness Curve, subtitle, Why Life Gets Better After 50. And his basic point is that everything you think you know about senior citizens is wrong. They're not miserable. They're not depressed. They're not terrified of onrushing death. They've receded from your social media life just because it has nothing that interests them.
Well,
because they've learned that sure, it's ridiculously easy in this new world to make new friends, but it's all but impossible to make new old friends, and they're the only kind of friends worth having.
I've moved around like 35 times, so so I've been around quite a bit. I could honestly point in my hand, I can count good true friends in a handful.
Right? Oh, exactly.
Right, and the thing is, right. You find when you go through life, there are people you come into your life that you need to meet, just the way it works. There are some people that come into your life that are there forever. There are some people in your life that just disappear as time goes on. And that's life. Like, we all change, we all grow, and we all evolve. But I'm 37. I face my own mortality. I have come to the point where I don't really give a fuck. I can only imagine myself at 50, 60. I'm going to give even less of a fuck. Right? And I imagine you've gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? I've done all the cool things I've wanted to do. I'm still doing and I want to do more cool things I want to do. And if you don't like it, hell, go fuck yourself. That's pretty much it, right?
Well, this writer Rauch says that basically what's going on is the real reason why human beings have dominated their environments, have outclassed every other species that there is in their local environment, environment is because there's only two species on Earth, us and orcas, where the elders stay around after they're done reproducing.
Yep.
And the tribe finds it useful to keep them alive for decades after they have no point in the bed wars, you know. But basically, we're the only ones who have grandmothers.
Yes.
And that we're the only ones who remember our mistakes.
Well, that's somewhat true. I think there's a time. Time does make us all forget at some point. I think there's some truth to that too. But I think up to your grandparents' age, you can see all the mistakes that your progeny and your previous, like, I see, like, my dad. I see the like what I admire about him, but I also what I don't want to be. And I mean, my grandma, same thing. What I like about it, like where I can aspire to be better, but also what I don't want to be. And if I do have kids someday, I mean, hopefully they see the same thing. What they like about me and what the fuck to avoid about me. You know.
Well, see, I'm just for the first time in my life running into the wall of realizing, holy shit, I'm Grandpa.
Yeah, you
are. Everybody that I used to look up to for wisdom, that basically they've all croaked on me.
Yeah, they did.
I'm the one holding the sack, and guess what? They didn't know anything more than I do right now.
No.
They were bluffing the whole time.
Probably.
And that's my job too, to act like I know everything and make my grandchild feel like it's, growing up isn't going to be so scary.
Well, it is terrifying, but it's also can be a lot of fun. Right, and that's kind of, I imagine at this point in your life you're still growing and still learning all kinds of new things.
Well, trying to, but it's come to my attention in the last couple of decades that basically what keeps us all arguing with each other and keeps us all yelling at each other is that the people come in two kinds. One kind finds the unknown, onrushing future threatening, and the other kind finds it thrilling. And the two of them will never understand each other,
I find myself kind of in the middle. There are things about the future that scare the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Right?
But man, the possibilities.
Oh god, yeah. No, they're phenomenal. I actually truly believe that we live in an age of intellectual property, because it's the only, we literally live in the age of ideas. Honest to God, we do. We can make the possibilities of what can be made and done by anybody today is virtually limited by your imagination.
If that.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what we live in today. That is, you sit there and think about that. That is mind-boggling. 10 years from now, we might not have manufacturing. 10 years from now.
Yeah.
We literally live in that age. 10 years.
I can conceive of an age in which we've abandoned the concept of money because it's no longer useful.
Yeah. No,
and I yearn for that day.
Well,
finally get something accomplished around here.
Well, that would be huge. I like the fact that we are coming to a point in time where the whole concept of how civilization has been for the last few thousand years could evolve beyond that is absolutely awesome. Flip side, it's also, there's a little bit of a terrifying thing because, like anything else in history, when you know your time's up, the people that are afraid of the future are fighting their best to keep it just as it is.
Sometimes I wonder if there's anything to the idea that an awful lot depends on what conditions are like when you were born. I've often thought that maybe the reason astrology actually sometimes seems to correspond to reality is it's got to make a difference if when you were born the world was just going into winter and everybody was freezing and scared to death and cabin fever and craziness, or the world was bright and sunny and everyone was rushing down to the beach. Something to do with the seasons must have an effect on what you see. And it must make a big difference whether you were born when Barack Obama was the president or you were born when Pinhead was the president. People born in those different eras have radically different views of reality. And that threatening versus thrilling debate. Each of them is probably going to be on a different side.
Okay, just
inclined to be.
Just for clarification, because the U.S. has had a ton of what I call pinhead presidents. Are we talking about the current one, or are we talking about George Bush, or someone else?
Oh God.
Yeah, I know.
I never expected to be able to say anything remotely like this in my life, but I once had dinner with George Bush.
Really?
George and Laura and
H.W.
Dick Cheney and Karl Rove and Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell.
Oh wow.
And a whole bunch of these, all of us in the Jefferson building, and all of us listening with rapt attention to our guest speaker of the evening, Elmo.
Really?
From Sesame Street, who was there to plug his book, My Life as a Furry Red Monster.
Awesome.
And I was in the room along with Michael Connolly and George Pelecanos and Yevgeny Yevtushenko, some of the gods of literature. And I'm sitting 3 tables away from the Bushes, and I've got a steak knife in my hand. But the trouble is that the room is ringed by men in the new combat fatigues.
Oh, yeah.
All carrying heavy weapons and crossed bandoliers of very large bullets. And they're all glaring at me because when I showed up, they hadn't sent me the letter everybody else got saying this dinner will be black tie. and I had just gotten off an airplane and didn't even have the slightest opportunity to rent anything. So I was just wearing a sports coat and a tie, and the tie was a Salvador Dali melting clocks necktie that at the very bottom of it had a thing sewn into it, a little buzzer that when you squeezed it, it went beep, beep. And the Secret Service hated that fucking necktie. But they had to let me wear it because you had to be wearing a fucking tie. If it's black tie and you don't have a black tie, you better at least have a tie. So they had to pass me with the goddamn necktie, but they x-rayed it and it fluoroscoped it and palpated it and did every damn thing. And the whole meal, I was conscious of the fact that there were at least 3 guys who'd been specially told off, if necessary, kill that asshole.
Yeah, you drew too much attention to yourself.
This is the one we're nervous about.
Oh, God.
It was a very, very, very strange evening. I've never been more conflicted,
Yeah.
The steak knives were very sharp.
I imagine. But you probably wouldn't have made it. Yeah.
What got me through it was the food was fucking delicious.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop eating long enough to assassinate the President of the United States. It's a pretty good scheme he uses. It works.
Well, no, the food's great. You don't really got a reason to do much. I'm so great.
It was just it was a fascinating experience. The next morning was brunch at the East Wing.
Were you in suit then? Because I want to see you in that tie.
Well, it was one of the weirdest experiences of my life. We had breakfast at the East Wing in something called the Green Room, and it was gallons of superb coffee, and I love good coffee, so I just poured it down. And so at some point, I said, and where is the men's room? And they said, oh, we're very sorry. So there's only one in the East Wing, and it's awkward to get at. Well, this person will take you there. It was the Presidential Library. And the Presidential Library, all the furniture was made by like Paul Revere.
Oh, wow.
Shit like that. And the room is full of the combined presidential papers of 200 years of American presidents and the books that they felt were worth putting in the White House library. So I snuck a copy of my own variable star into the president's library. And then I went to use the room I had come there to use. I went into the men's room in the presidential library, and the toilet that room consisted of a commode with no walls and no door. It was just a pot sticking up out of the floor with a roll of toilet paper on the floor next to it. The walls had been taken down for some reason and stacked next to it. And so the only way to use it was to sit there in plain sight of whoever walked into the room next. Well, I had no choice. I was full of coffee, and I had to take a dump. And I used the throne, and two different people wandered in while I was doing so, but turned around in a panic and raced from the room. Finally, I got done. I finished with what I was doing. I washed my hands. I looked around. There was nothing to dry my hands with. And so I opened the door to see was there anything outside. Had anyone provided a box of Kleenex for people who came in to read a book or something? And directly across the corridor from the door to the men's room, well, remember I said mostly what was in the library were presidential papers? Well, it happens that right outside the door to the men's room are the presidential papers of Richard M. Nixon. And I was looking directly at the volume containing the missing 20 minutes of the... Did you remember the transcription of Rosemary Woods that was missing crucial 20 minutes that would have pinned down whether or not he knew about the break-in?
Yeah.
Well, I figure what happened was he was in there himself and got caught short. They ran out of toilet paper and nobody had put a new roll on the floor. And I figure he reached out and took the first available source of paper he could find, and that's how all that got started.
Damn.
It's just a remarkable little insight into American history.
Yes. There's a throne without walls in the library. Never thought I'd see that.
You've been doing this a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, for a bit.
I took a quick Google pass at you, and I'm stunned. I managed to get through 1 year of a podcast, and it took most of my time for that year. You know, it was at the end of the year. I just said I either got to find a way to make a living from podcasting or stop doing it.
Well, I've said this on a few shows. I don't know if you listen to them. It's actually kind of flattering for me because you are a legend in science fiction. Like, honestly, you're an honest-to-God legend.
I hear you say that, but frankly, nobody ever tells me the legend.
But you are. I mean, you legitimately are. Callahan's great. I mean, I bought a bunch of your books to read this weekend, and because I've heard of you, never had a chance to read you, I wish I'd read sooner.
See, most of what I hear about reader reaction to my stuff comes from publishers, and it is in the publisher's interest to create the impression that nobody really wants my stuff, but they kind of think I'm a nice fellow, and they've agreed to keep on publishing me anyway, even though there's no money in it. You know, that's just... The air they try to strike is you're very lucky you're still working for us, young man.
Which is weird because honestly, there's not like okay from a science fiction point of view, you have great ideas, great concepts, but you have a very personalized kind of view in how you write your stories. And I guess in who you are, which is always cool. But I mean, I feel your characters, they feel real. Science fiction doesn't do that very well.
You know, maybe I'm just, I don't know what it is, but when I got into business and met my heroes, the guys I considered the gods, you know, they all seemed to know it. They all had a firm conviction of just how good they were. You know, they were very confident men, and they knew what they were worth and what they could demand. And I've never managed to reach that stage. I'm still at the point where I can't believe I'm getting away with this.
Well,
you know,
I understand. This is how I'm doing the podcast. I can't believe I get away with this either, to be honest with you. And
I mean, I'm a science fiction writer, and I failed every science course I ever took. You know, what am I doing in this field? All I know about science I got from Heinlein and Sturgeon and Asimov.
And those are really good models.
I think.
Especially up until I'd say Moon is a Harsh Mistress, some of the best science fiction out there.
Oh, man.
Asimov, the man. And Sturgeon's underrated.
I still have not digested the fact that the Heinlein estate asked me to complete a Robert Heinlein novel. I still don't know where to put that,
Well, that's a compliment. I think that's one of the biggest compliments they can give you.
Oh, great compliment of my life, Jesus Christ! I was sitting in the office of my cousin Claire in New York once, and I was talking with Claire. I don't see her very often, so I was trying to pay attention to her and what she was saying and keep looking at her, but my eyes kept being yanked sideways and to the left, and I wasn't sure why, but I tried to suppress it, and it wasn't working very well. For some reason, I couldn't keep my eyes on her face, and she caught me at it in no time at all and said, go ahead, let yourself look. She said, this happens with almost every visitor I get here. And I let my eyes go and focused on what they were insisting on looking at. And Claire was the children's book editor at Scribner's. She replaced Alice Dalgleish, the woman who had bought all the Heinlein juveniles, and there they were on the shelf in her office in alphabetical order with the original Clifford Geary covers, just the way they were on the library shelf when I found them all at age 6, And I had photographed that gestalt when I saw it without realizing it, and somehow just seeing all those books in that order with those spines all facing me at once, my brain wanted me to look at you. You're in the room with a holy object, sir. Pay attention.
Those are quite damn good covers. I've seen them off and on in bookstores once in a while, but you rarely see like the whole set. Forget it.
Part of the reason my eyes insisted on looking at them was there was something slightly wrong with them, and then when I focused on them, I could see what was wrong was these copies did not all have the same sticker down at the bottom of the title edge that depicted a hydrogen atom being impaled by a V-2 rocket ship. That indicated sci-fi in those days. And her copies didn't have those because they'd never been in the library. These were first editions. Wow.
Yeah. That's a cool thing to see.
The book I'm writing right now, basically, I'm 70 years old. It's time for me to reminisce a little. And I'm writing a book called The Luckiest Man, which is intended to prove the proposition that I am the luckiest son of a bitch that ever walked this earth. As far as I can tell, that's true. I don't know anyone I would switch lives with. Nobody I've ever met or read about or heard of. Everything has worked out like gravy for me. Granted, bits of the luck have not lasted. Some of my loved ones have had to leave way too early, and that's unfortunate. But it's unfortunate in direct proportion to how fortunate I was to know them in the first place. I was lucky enough to lose something that great. Let's face it, nobody's luck lasts forever. Philip K. Dick said, "Everything in life is just for a while."
Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
Dr. Seuss is the man. It's like, don't be sorry it's over. Be happy.
Yes, exactly. And I've just had more good luck than I can account for. I certainly have done nothing to deserve any of the blessings that have fallen on me, and I got no complaints coming at all. I'm the one who sees the oncoming future as thrilling because it's pretty much always worked out that way. With a few scary interludes. That's you pay for your ticket if you want to see this movie.
Absolutely.
But,
I mean, it's life.
Well, there's Willie Nelson's latest album, Last Man Standing. There's a beautiful song on there. It's about grieving for a loved one, and the chorus is it's not something you get over, but it's something you get through.
Absolutely.
It's just a thing we get to do.
Well,
Willie, man, you got it, brother.
Well, no, just one thing. Like when you look at life, there has to be valleys sometimes. It makes you appreciate those good moments when they really happen. Right? And then when you see those good moments, you can realize how lucky you are to have those. And then you look at those bad moments, and you're like, Well, thank you for preparing me for these good moments.
Yeah. Way early in my career, somebody I was living with explained to me that why you always put salt in the cookies is it gives the sugar something to work against.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes it sweeter, And I had never gotten that before, but yeah, it's the salt in the cookies that helps the sweetness be more greatly appreciated.
Well, because otherwise you might take it for granted, and that's the worst thing in the world. Because then one day it'll be gone, and only then do you realize what you really had, and that's terrible.
Well, see, fortunately, my wife was a Buddhist, and practically every day of our lives together, she would find some reason to mention one more time that our life and our death are the same thing. That she really believed that. She lived her life that way, and lo and behold, she was right. It all worked. I never saw anybody die so well, so easily, so without fear, without alarm, without. Okay. What's next? I'm ready. Let's go.
It's lifestyle style. I like it.
Greatest teacher I ever had in my life, man. And that was one of the coolest things about being at the White House was we were both there because we had been invited separately in the same year.
Really?
Yeah, Jeanne had been invited for Stardance, and I had been invited for the Robert Heinlein collaboration. And the people who invited each of us had no idea the other one was being invited and assumed that each of us would be bringing the other one. And so we got to bring our daughter and my sister, two of our favorite people on the planet. And we had a wonderful time. I've got a picture of my wife and my daughter and my sister all sitting underneath a photograph of Mrs. Clinton, which photograph has been titled "4 Strong Women." Yes, that's just pretty cool,
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Like that line from The Princess Bride. That Prince Humperdinck, he must be some kind of fella to have a bride like that.
That's right.
That's all my life. It made me proud just to walk into a room with Jeanne on my arm, man.
Wow.
She was the genius of the family. She was the real artist. I could do song and dance. I can keep you entertained for a while, but Jeanne, she could just make magic anytime she felt like it.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you. You're a magical dude yourself. I got to see you perform at VCon. I got to see the Beatles, and that was damn cool. I had people on my Facebook feed going, "I'm so jealous of you right now."
There was a time, not that many years ago, when I could have done a better job of hitting the high notes. My voice seems to have dropped in recent years.
Do you know what you actually did that night? Made me do two things. It made me appreciate just how genius the Beatles. I mean, I knew they were. You obviously know the Beatles was great. You have. But how intricate some of their songs really are.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Right.
For guys that couldn't read or write music and had no idea of musical theory whatsoever, man, they sure had great intuition.
No, fantastic, right? Like that kind of genius is literally once in a lifetime. It's that. Right?
Yeah.
And here you are. You're doing your damnedest. But sometimes you knock it out of the park, but sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. But you're having fun up there, man. Everybody feel it.
What the hell? It's just that there was a time when I could sing "Oh Darling" in the original key.
That's true.
And hit those notes.
You're having a blast doing it. And honestly, you could feel it. And it was awesome.
It was fun being able to hit them.
Yeah.
I understand Paul McCartney has troubles doing Long Tall Sally these days.
Paul McCartney's had a very, very awesome career himself. I can understand working with what works for him at this point. Really, he's done it all.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm having a lengthy discussion with one of the guys I do the Beatles sing along with, Steve Fonstock. We've been talking about how disappointing it is when you get to the periods in their lives when they turned into jackasses. When George Harrison, started cheating on his wife and taking dope, and Eric Clapton became a drunk and stole his best friend's wife and then pissed all over her. And when your heroes behave very badly and there is no excuse, there is no explanation that holds water.
I've had to learn this myself with my own heroes. Like, they're human beings too, and there's good and bad in everybody. And with them, they hit a level of success very few people hit. And like anything else, so at first it goes to your head.
Yeah. Well, when Jeanne and I were still courting, hadn't even got married yet. One day we were in Nova Scotia at the time. We're driving down a dirt road in a pickup truck, and suddenly I just stopped the truck right in the middle of the road. There's never any traffic, but I stopped the truck and I got out and I started walking around the truck in a circle like a loony, just raving over and over again. And Jeanne said, "What's wrong? What's the matter?" I said, "It just hit me. Everybody's an asshole. Everybody. I've never met or read about or heard of or seen on TV anybody who wasn't. Robert Heinlein, what an asshole. Jesus Christ comes to Earth to save mankind, forgets to alert the media. What an asshole." The thing is, though, we've all got the idea that there are some people who aren't assholes, and we want to be mistaken for one of them.
Yes.
And everybody's trying to put up this front so that no one will be able to tell they're one of the assholes. Well, guess what, Jack? There ain't nobody who ain't.
No.
And anyone who looks like they're not an asshole is, by definition, a major asshole.
Oh, yeah.
So just fucking relax. Take it easy. Give yourself a break. And sure enough, years later, it turns out that the very last song John Lennon ever wrote, the morning that he died, he got up, he turned on the tape recorder, and he sang, "Dear John, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself a break. Life wasn't meant to be run. The race is over. You've won."
Yeah.
And then he went off to work, and some asshole killed him. Okay. He knew it at the last moment. Clarity came to him, and he knew he had completed his job. He had accepted, I'm just an asshole. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be an asshole in this world. You legitimately have to be.
Well, sure.
Right. The world, I mean, as wondrous as it is, it's also a nasty place. And if you don't have a little bit of an asshole on you get walked on. It's true.
With my discussion with Steve Hostock about the Beatles started off with the observation that people sure like to have strong opinions about Yoko Ono one way or another, and we were both of us trying to imagine how could you conceivably have been in her position, with the entire evil eye of the world focused jaundiced way upon you, and not have acted like an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever has, And apparently all four of these Beatles, although they all seem to have started out as nice guys, went a little nuts when they became quadrillionaires.
Well, yeah. I would too.
Everybody wanted to know, how exactly do you scratch your ass so I can copy it?
Exactly. I mean, that's part of. I think a lot of people forget too. I mean, the thing about fame, the other aspect about fame is a little bit of ego happens, right? Because you made it, right? But it's also a self-defense mechanism. You have to insulate yourself from everybody on some level, or you go nuts.
This WorldCon was a lesson for me because I've been away from science fiction for 7 or 8 years. I stopped getting science fiction story ideas. I stopped thinking of science fictional things to write, and then shortly thereafter, I lost interest in reading science fiction. Every science fiction book I read, it seemed like I'd already read 10 times before, and so I sort of stepped away from science fiction for 8 years. And then I come to WorldCon, and for the first time, I hadn't given a thought to anything I've written or my own career or my own field. I was just reacting to the deaths of my wife and my daughter, as I had more important things on my mind. But then, I come to WorldCon, and all these people want to smother me with love. They're all love bombing me. They're all telling me how much I mean to them, and how much, I was responsible for the two of them meeting and getting married. And, people tell you stuff like that. There's absolutely no way you can turn away. No. There's absolutely no way. When they all want to give you a hug or a kiss or share a joint with you or share a drink with you, there's no way you can say no. But then I get back from WorldCon. It took me over a month to recover from all the various infections I picked up from all the people who wanted to love bomb me, and I can't blame any one of them. They're all scientifically literate people, right? They're science fiction fans, so they know that human beings are walking germ bags, but in that moment they meet me and they forget. And if I reach for a jar of hand sanitizer, intellectually they know that makes perfect sense, but it will still offend them.
Yes.
Yes. And so you finally realize this by about the 10th person, and you just put the fucking hand sanitizer away and accept your fate. And this is a month and a half out of my life. Who knows what I might have written in that month and a half?
But I mean, just think of it like this. It's the price of being loved by that many people.
Well, really, there ought to be a cost to be loved by that many people, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
What did I do to deserve that? But it's the truth. In every city in North America, there are like a very, very, very small handful of people who would really love to buy me a drink or take me out to dinner. But none of those people are going through my garbage looking for scandal, and none of those people are looking for ways to blackmail me, or kidnap my kid. Even I don't have one anymore, but nobody ever did. It's a square deal. There's no problem.
Yeah, well, I think the guy that handled fame the best of all the musicians I've ever saw was Alice Cooper.
It's just the damnedest thing. Science fiction is like I've never seen such a gigantic and clumsy but loving family.
Yeah.
They will sometimes accidentally infuriate you, not meaning to, but pretty much everyone infuriates me sooner or later,
That's right.
Because let's face it, we're all assholes.
Exactly.
Even if you pick out a crowd of the smartest ones you can find, science fiction fans, they will be an occasional asshole.
Law of averages, right?
Yeah. I found it a very interesting group to belong to because everybody's so opinionated,
Well, yeah, but like I said, your stuff, I wish I had started reading it sooner, but your stuff definitely deals with the human condition on a multitude of levels, and that's what science fiction ultimately is all about.
That's why it was so great living with Jeanne, man. She always maintained the perspective that, the people with opinions just go around bothering one another. Yeah. She would say, she was absolutely right. You want to tear a family apart, just speak the name Tronald Dump.
Yes.
And watch the argument start. And the people who've loved each other all their lives who won't speak to each other now.
Which is weird to me because this is the thing about me living in the digital age. I get to watch everybody's opinions on all these political things, and I just shake my head. I don't care. I really don't. I would rather just everybody get along. And that's actually the best way to deal with what's going on right now. Oddly, like peace, love, and understanding is probably more important today than it ever was.
Well, you hear this shit all your life, and after a while you stop hearing it. But it really is true that this too shall pass. Yes. That all the things. Mark Twain, I think it was, said, all the worst moments of my life never happened. I spent my hours in terror of things that never came within a million years of occurring. I can picture more dooms than even fate can throw at me, and it's pretty much true.
Yeah. That's actually true. The human imagination conceives of far worse things than what actually usually does happen. Usually.
Yeah. Successfully predicting your doom in no way mitigates it. So why make yourself feel rotten when you don't need to?
Life's too short. I mean, honestly, but I think everybody has to learn that lesson on their own time and place. In the meantime, you'll be performing Beatles and building stereo equipment. I'll be talking to awesome people like yourself. And life will go on.
Well, as long as there are still musicians around to make music for us, if they completely starve them, which they seem on the verge of doing, that's going to get ugly.
Yes, it will.
I can't help but think back to when I was a callow youth trying to decide what to do with my life, and I finally decided, well, I'll take a crack at this writing thing, but I don't really expect it to work. But that's okay, because if the writing doesn't work out, well, I could always make a living in music. Christ, you can always make a living in music. Well, no, actually you can't. Guys who are much better than I am are starving to death right now. They're all playing, eight gigs a week and doing house concerts in between to pay the rent, because there aren't any record companies anymore and there are no more royalties. But then I also had it on my, I was so smart, I didn't just have a plan B. I had a plan C, too. If music should ever unthinkably fail, there was always going to be journalism.
Yeah.
Surprise. No, there ain't. There's journalism if you enjoy doing it for free, but if you're not Bob Woodward, forget it.
We live in a strange time, man. We really do.
Great time to go broke.
Yes.
All the professions that used to be, well, if you're too poor, if you're too weak or too ill to work, you could always sit at a typewriter. Well, not anymore, because now the typewriter has to be connected to a word processor, which costs about the same as a car.
Yeah. Well, you can bootleg. We can talk about that after the conversation. But yes.
Well, if you had a car, you could just leave town and diddle all your creditors, and you wouldn't need the money. So,
exactly.
Strange life. The way life has changed, you see, and the way the proverbs change. My father, for instance, used to express the sentiment, "Take your time," by saying a man should never be in a hurry until the cops are halfway up the stairs.
He's got points. I can't disagree with that.
This gives you a word picture of the world he grew up in. That's pretty accurate.
It's still fair. Still applies.
For one thing, I can't remember the last time I lived someplace that had stairs. All those walk-up apartments in the Bronx, that's ancient history.
Yeah, it is.
It was strange. My daughter got an apartment on the Grand Concourse in New York, and something about that name rang a bell, and I didn't quite know why. So Jeanne and I went to visit her and her husband, and they had a lovely apartment. And then I suddenly got it. The neighborhood clicked and fell into place for me, and I walked about 2.5 blocks from where her apartment was, and there was the apartment I had grown up in.
Wow.
On Bainbridge Avenue in the Bronx. Except that I couldn't make it the last half block, because Bainbridge Avenue, since I was there, Bainbridge Avenue is now a street that white people don't go on. And this was made very clear to me. There was gang sign everywhere you looked, and there were dirty looks everywhere you looked, and you found yourself studying your clothes to see were you by any chance happening to be wearing one of the wrong colors, one of the colors that says, I belong to this gang rather than that gang, which will get you killed.
Yes. And sometimes, because my family's from Detroit, you can walk into a neighborhood and you're just the wrong skin color at the wrong place at the wrong time. If you're not careful.
Exactly, and two and a half blocks away was a perfectly good upscale neighborhood where my daughter, who at that time worked for Martha Stewart as print coordinator for the magazine, felt quite all right living there. Because that was a whole 2 blocks away from where I grew up.
It's such a strange thing how a block, just a simple block or 2 blocks, separates worlds.
A different world, and so many of the worlds that were there when I was a kid growing up literally don't exist anymore because Robert Moses came and put a highway or a railroad or a bridge right through them, and annihilated neighborhoods that had been there for over a century.
Yeah, and it happens all over, all the time.
Yeah, but nowhere quite as often as New York. Robert Moses was a dreadful plague, and unfortunately, no one ever got around to shooting him.
Oh man. So
the city has gotten much richer. If success is measured by how well you've served the millionaires of the community, he was a godsend. He was.
My constant horniness gets hard on you. Sometimes it seems I'm always in the mood. That is so I truly beg your pardon too. It wasn't my intention to be rude. My love, my horniness, in that it never quits. But I'd love you if you didn't have those tears. Well, men have only got the one thing on their mind. It gets so repetitious, it's a crime all the time. Somebody said a hard man good to find, as long as you don't find him every goddamn time. You are not only something that I lust for, that I hunt. Love you if you didn't have a gun. Well, I'm neurotically erotic, with a taste for the exotic, and your body is hypnotic, ways next to me. I'm dementedly attentive, and in need of small incentive, but you represent much more than sex to me. You know that I was horny for start. That's the way it's always gonna be. You got to know your sexiness is just a part of the love that you'll always have for me. Well, it may have been what caught my eye, but it is why I stay. Love you if I didn't have it.
So sometimes it's funny how many connections there are between all the various bits of nonsense that come out of my mouth. I could almost organize them into a coherent whole if I had somebody else to do all the housework and cooking and cleaning and landscaping and shopping and oh man, Jeanne, one of the most amazing things about my wife, and there were a million amazing things about her, was that she managed to keep this whole household running with about 5% of her attention.
Yes.
Made sure that all the shopping got done. There was always food in the fridge. That it always got cooked. The clothing always got washed. All that stuff. She did that effortlessly without seeming to extend herself in any way, while maintaining 3 separate careers in 3 different demanding professions. This is all time intensive. And how the hell she did it, I will never know.
I have no clue either. That sounds like amazing.
I mean, I really did think the whole time I was married to her, every year of the 35 years we were together, I thought I was solidly aware of everything she did for me. I thought I paid close attention, and I appreciated every bit of it, and I knew all the things that I had to thank my wife for. Once she went away, it took me about 10 minutes to realize I didn't have a freaking clue. I had begun to suspect everything she'd been doing for me, making it possible for me to stay up all night long, every night, staring at the space, sitting at the keyboard, playing poker with myself on the computer, and listening to music and waiting for inspiration, while she made everything happen that I now spend 98% of my time doing. Just getting the clothes washed and the dishes done and the lawn cut and the plants cut back and one thing, if she just effortlessly did that like breathing while she was choreographing and while she was preparing classes for her students and while she was getting ready to meditate for her Zen buddies. And I didn't used to believe multitasking existed, but I've come to realize, yes, it does, but only women can do it.
Yeah, no, that is I think one of women's greatest gifts, because I struggle with 2 things. They'll do like 5 in front of you, make it effortless.
Exactly. And someday, some smart cobber, probably a woman researcher, will figure out how their brains are differently arranged that permits them to do this magic trick. You know what it is they're doing right that we're doing wrong.
It's just one of those things, man. You just look at them and go, "Wow, you're awesome! Like you're just really, really awesome." And why am I here?
Like I say, I was the luckiest son of a bitch ever, because I would never have written 35 books if it hadn't been for Jeanne's unfailing support. She thought that getting my books written was important enough to spend her time working to help happen. And boy, am I grateful. I felt the same way about her dance. I was just as happy to put in as much time as possible to make her dance company work and keep her dancers happy and keep the funding coming and keep the reviewers from fucking up too badly. That was really great. We both genuinely admired the shit out of each other. I think that's a good recipe for a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be able to live with each other and see the magic in each other.
Well, there was a line from a Larry Niven novel. I don't even remember which novel, but the line has stuck in my brain for like 40 years, and it always makes me think of Jeanne. The line was, he had never been tempted to be unfaithful to his wife. He knew that she was too good for him, and he lived in fear that she would notice.
That's actually I think more truth than anything else.
Instantly, I said, I understand this man.
Yes. No, absolutely.
He and I could be friends. We both know how lucky we are.
Sometimes that's really the secret to success. Just really recognizing how lucky you really are.
Yeah, exactly. When I think about it, the worst mistakes I've ever made in my life have been when I pissed away something good by not valuing it highly enough, by thinking it was, I can get one of them anytime.
Yeah, no, that thinking is always death, no matter what it is in life. I can get it any time. No, you can't. It's now or never. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, surprise. All the time Jeanne and I were together, the one thing that we knew, there isn't much in life that you know. There are things you suspect, and there are things you hope. But one thing we knew for sure was Jeanne was going to outlive me by many decades, because everyone in her family lives to be over 100.
Yep.
She's the first person in human memory in her family not to have broken 100, like her grandfather did at 102. Her mom is now in her late 90s and is strong as an ox and healthy as a horse. And we all knew that Jeanne was going to be 100 and something, and I was probably going to be dead before I was 40, because I was born with very bad lungs, which were almost guaranteed to kill me. And surprise, I'm 70, and it's beginning to dawn on me that I might live to be as long as my father did, 94. I might have another quarter of a century of this horse shit to get through. I thought I was almost done, for Christ's sake. It's been very confusing to me to have Jeanne check out way before me.
I can tell you miss her.
And it didn't faze her in the least. It didn't surprise her. It did, she took life exactly as it came, and then did not feel she had a right to expect anything.
No.
But still, I'm still getting over this big surprise. I hadn't quite expected this. And, of course, you think the sensible thing would be, well, go out and get another wife to handle the cooking and the cleaning and the sewing and the...
It doesn't work that way.
No, I'm not interested. I'm not, for one thing, as I keep telling people, the last time I was out on a date, the Beatles were still together. In fact, the last time I was out on a date, the Beatles were always going to be together. It was inconceivable that they would ever separate. We'd seen the movie. They all lived in the same fucking room.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake, we'd seen Help. They all lived in the same house on the same floor in the same bedroom. There was never going to be no Beatles. So I'm done. I took that class. I won that lottery. If you've won the lottery, you don't buy another ticket. That's just insulting the gods.
Well, I want to give you an interesting story, if you don't mind. And it's this. So my grandmother just turned 8, or she's approaching 80, and her husband, my grandfather, has been dead for over 5 years. And she gives me a phone call one day, and she tells me something's happened to me, and she's happier than she's been in a long, long, long time. And she's dating again. And actually, when I was down in Windsor, Ontario, I got to meet him. She's happy. I mean, happier than I've seen her in a long, long time.
I hear you, and I'm open to the possibility that could happen again. It's not like I'm
I got you.
Walking away from good prospects or something. It's just that it took me my whole life to find Jeanne the first time. It's not like they're thick on the ground.
No. And I get it. I just like, for me, just I don't know you very well, my friend, but it sounds to me like you right now you're still grieving her, and it sounds like she was a once in a lifetime find, and I get that.
You know what it is? I've sort of turned the corner. I ain't grieving on her no more. What I'm doing now is celebrating her.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if you're busy celebrating another woman, that's a bad time to start a new relationship.
No, I agree. I totally agree with that. No, I don't disagree. But you're still in that. Again. She was a big part of your life, and she still is. And until that changes...
asking anybody to step into Jeanne's shoes is insane.
Exactly, and they never will. And they never will. It'll be...
I hope I'm smart enough not to,
Yeah.
My dad, when my mom died, he was lost. He was hopelessly helpless. He didn't know how to cook toast. He didn't know how to manufacture a cup of tea. And so he married the first warm-blooded mammal that would have him, and she made his life hell for decades longer than my mother had made it blissful, But he needed somebody to do that housework. And I ain't doing that. I'd rather break my ass and kill myself learning how to do housework.
One thing I have I realize is you're never too old to do this, and that is you have to filter what kind of people you want in your life, always.
Yeah. Also, Jeanne trained me. See, every year she would go away to the monastery, sometimes for 3 weeks, sometimes for 3 months, and I had to learn how to use the damn laundry machine. I had to learn how to cook a few meals. I had to learn how to keep a household running for a few weeks, sometimes a few months. And that'll train you to keep it running full time forever,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sounds like she was a great woman. So
she was, it really helped knowing at some point she'd be coming home.
Oh, absolutely.
And that and knowing the house damn well had better be in shape when she gets home, because she'll catch hell if it isn't.
Yes, a wise man is a little afraid of his wife. It's good.
I gotta admit, I've certainly given myself a little slack since she left. I no longer have to keep the house up to her standards, so I try and find a happy medium.
You gotta go with what works with you, my friend. There's really no, and really at this point. I mean, it's about what makes you content at this point in your life, and that's.
At this point, I don't gotta please nobody but me.
Exactly.
If it suits me to play music all night while I'm sleeping, I do.
Yeah.
I happen to like that. It enhances my sleep. It makes it more restful. But you can't do that if someone's sleeping next to you who doesn't like sleeping with music playing loud.
Exactly.
To me, it's not loud.
Just there's trade-offs, right? So there's trade-offs. Mr. Spider Robinson, it has been a pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, geez, I just looked up and, oh, Christ, we've been at this a long time.
Yeah, we have. I know. And that's kind of why I'm like, I know you have your own day ahead of you, and I don't want to take too much more time of it. So,
we've got to start meeting like this.
Yeah, I hope I get another chance. So next time I do see you, I will definitely take you up on the drink part for sure.
Oh, well, hook me up when this is ready to go, and I'll drop an ear in.
No, sure. Listen, 2 things before you go. I know you're working on a book right now. If you want to talk about it here, you can. It's up to you. Whatever is important to you, you can talk about. And how can people find you if you want people to find you?
All right. Well, if there's anything that's still not covered, just send an email and I'll send some back.
Yeah. Okay. Works for me.
And I'll send some music, like I said.
That will work out for me. Do you have like a webpage or anything like that?
Again, sir. So this has been fun.
No, it has been. But real quick, do you have a webpage?
Yeah. It's just SpiderRobinson.com.
Fair enough.
In fact, check it out. At the moment, I recently started a blog just because I found that my words had come back after 6 or 7 years of not having anything to say. Suddenly, puns were occurring to me again.
Oh, no. You're a punster.
Yeah, and so there's been about a dozen of them episodes so far, and the one that's there right now is a particularly good place to start. I think it's the best story of the 20th century. It's a totally true story, and almost nobody knows it.
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
I'd love to know what you think of it. It's just it's one of those stories. It will make a perfect movie someday.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out. I'm not going to lie. I think this might have been the best thing I've ever done in terms of interviews. Thank you very much, Spider Robinson, for coming on my podcast. Check out his blog, SpiderRobinson.com, because that story he's talking, he has a great story in there about Japanese women's rights in his blog. And you should read, and everybody should actually do this, because this is probably one of the coolest stories you don't know happened, and it's amazing, and you should definitely check this out, especially if you subscribe to any kind of women's rights. It's incredible. Beyond that, this is gonna do it. You know who he is. Buy his books. I'm actually on a personal crusade for Callahan's Cross Time Saloons, all of them. I am looking for all of them. I'm really enjoying Telepath. Spider writes like a a slightly gentler, more humane Robert Heinlein. That's my opinion. If he disagrees, I'll be like, whatever. But you should definitely check that out. Enjoy the last song on here too. Spider wrote this one himself and performed it himself, and it's really good. Beyond all that, guys, thanks for listening. This was my honor. This really was, and I hope I get to do it again. All right, have a good one.
Take 3. 1, 2. I'm aware of you when I'm busy at my work and you're humming in the parlor. I'm aware of you. We don't have to say a word. I don't need any reminder. I'm aware of you, and I care for you. I will be there for you, 'cause you're aware of me. You give me what I need, most times before I know I need it. You're aware of me. I don't have to slay a dragon just to come to your attention. You're aware of me, and you care for me. You've been there for me. And this house is alive with your home. When you're gone, it's a pleasant hotel. I don't ask if you're home. As I come in the door, I can tell, I can tell, 'cause I'm aware of you. When my mind is chasing fantasies across the galaxies, I'm aware of you. As I sit at my computer playing poker with myself, I am aware of you, and I care for you. I know you know I do. You know I know you do, 'cause I'm